Hi, it's Jordan Teen 1, and today I'll be showing you how to make this adorable little basket that you can use as an Easter basket, or you can just use regular brown colors and make a basket for any time of the year. So you're only going to need your hook to make this, and I think it turns out really cute. I used a little bit of a different stitch that's similar to a puff stitch in crochet. So it is a little bit time consuming to make, but I think it's worth it in the end just because it turns out so cute. I also have a tutorial for these little mini eggs that look adorable in the basket. You can see I just have bands at the bottom as like the plastic straw. So I'll add the link to the tutorial for these in case you want to make them. Or if not, this works good to add little candy to, or anything really. You could fill it with bands, your C-clips if you have a bunch of those laying around, paper clips, just a cute little decoration. So what you're going to need is a hook of some sort, and I have the Rainbow Loom metal hook, but if you don't have that, you can use a plastic hook or a crochet hook. And then I am going to be showing the magic ring, which is the beginning of the base of the basket, using a twisty tie. But if you don't have that, don't worry about it. You don't absolutely have to have that. It just helps out a little bit. Or you can also make the magic ring on your loom if you have a loom. And Kate Schultz from Isalicious Designs has a tutorial on that. And for your band count today, you're going to need about 415. I tried to get an accurate count, so that's pretty close. It may be a few more or less than that. And then as far as my colors that I'm using, I have Rainbow Loom brand bands, and I have 152 white, 142 of the neon blue, and then 121 of the orange. So to make the magic ring, I'm going to use this twisty tie. And I'm just going to place it alongside of my hook so that when I put the bands on, I'm just going to wrap it around there. So I have decided to use different colors for the base of my basket just because I think it's a little bit easier to see when you use a different color. So I'm taking orange and I want to triple this band on my hook. So I'm just placing it over top of the twisty tie and my hook, twisting and putting it back on. And I'm going to twist and put it back on again. And now I'm just going to pull the twisty tie up and bend it in half. So really all this is doing is just helping to keep these three bands together and giving you something to hold on to and pull, because it's a little bit hard when you're starting with nothing to be using your fingernails and pulling these out. But if you don't have a twisty tie, that's what you would do. Just use your fingers. So I'm going to be doing a total of 8 bands that are going through here. So if you want to, you can count out 8 bands and put them aside. So this is the first one. It's just getting pulled through, and then the other end of it is going back on the hook, and you're pulling one end through the other. Essentially you're just making a slip knot. And then I'm going to go in through the back every time. Make sure you're going through all 3 bands. If you have this twisty tie, it's easy because you know you're making it through all of them. Grab the next band, pull it through to the back, get the other end on your hook, and then the band on the end slides through the other 2. So that was our second one. This will be the third. So it just gets pulled through, back on your hook, and then pull through the other 2. So essentially that's the pattern that you're going to use, the technique for the whole thing, at least for the bottom, not for the sides. And then we're taking our next one here, pulling it through. So you can spread these out a little bit too as you're going. So now we're ready to do our 5th one. And after you get a little bit formed here, you can take the twisty tie out. Let me just do another one here. Now I can remove this, just so I have a little more room inside that circle. And I'm going back through here. This is my 7th one. And then one more time. It does get kind of tight in there. And that would be my last one. So you can just stretch these out, make sure they're kind of evenly spaced there. And so now we're ready to start our next row here. And I am going to switch colors just because I think it's a little easier to see. So if you look at the top here, you can see the bands here. And each band I'm going to be calling a stitch. And it has 2 sides. It has a back side and a front side. So you want to make sure that you're going to go through both. Taking my next color here, I'm going to switch to the white. And I'm going to pull this through. And then I'm also going to pull it through the other one on my hook. And I'm going to make what's called a slip stitch. And the reason that I'm doing that is just because we're changing colors and we want this orange that was on our hook to be as close up against the other orange as possible. And now I'm just pulling this one band through the other to make the slip knot. And now I'm going to do a total of 2 of what you would call a single crochet, which is what we've been doing, inside of each of the stitches. So that's the first one. And we have 8, so 8 times 2 is 16. We need a total of 16 bands. So this counts as 1, so you're going to need 15 more. So if you'd like, you can pause the video here and count out the 15. And so we need to go back down through this same stitch again. So from the back, we're just coming forward through that same one. And I'm going to take a second white and pull that through. You're doing the same looping as usual. You're going to take the first one through the other 2. And so now if you look at the top, you can see here would be our next one. So going through the 2, pulling it through, back on, and then sliding it through the other 2. And then a second time through that same one. Make sure it gets through both there and back through. So you're just going to keep repeating that. I know sometimes it can be a little hard if you're not familiar with doing this to tell what exactly you're supposed to be going through. And if you haven't done anything off of the loom before, it can definitely be a little bit scary to do a bigger project like this, even though this isn't really a very big project. So again, we're going to the next one here and doing 2. So I think after you do a few rounds here, you'll definitely get the hang of it. And I think you'll find it's not as hard as you may initially have thought. I know there's definitely a learning curve, and if you are struggling with this, I would recommend the videos by Kate Schultz from Isalicious Designs because she has a lot of beginner tutorials that explains the basics. So I have 2 more here to go through. Back through the same one. And then here's my last one. Back through the same one again. And then you're done for that row. And so now we're ready to start our next one here. And if you look at the top here, this one here is actually our first stitch. I know you may see this little tiny one here and think that that's a stitch, but it actually isn't. It's just from our slip knot. So you want to go through here, make it through both, and then I'm taking another color, which is blue. I'm pulling it through here. And now this is the part where I'm doing it a little different, making this slip stitch. So I'm actually going through the white as well, just to get the white against the white. And then I'm putting the blue back on my hook and sliding one through the other. And I should mention, I should have done it on the previous row, but I actually didn't think about it. You can use a clip or some kind of stitch marker to show where you first started. And since we're using a different color every time, it's really not necessary, but I'm going to do it for this anyway. I have an S-clip here and I'm just going to attach it to this. And this just lets us know that this is where we started and this is where we need to stop. So now for this next one, I'm going to be doing a pattern of 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 in the stitches. So for this one we did 1, so for the next one we'll do 2. And the total bands that are going to be needed for this layer are going to be 24. So we did 1 here, so we'll need to do 23 more. And if you'd like, you can pause your video and count out 23 more bands. And so now I'm going to this next stitch over, and since we did 1 in the first one, I want to do 2 in this next one. So again, it's just the same pattern, going back through the same one again for that second. And now in the next one, we just need 1 single crochet. Pull it through the other 2. And now a second one. So hopefully everybody is not having too much problem following this. I know that it's kind of a new concept for some people, and then other people have made really elaborate things. And for the next one, again, just 1. And now 2. So I think it's so much nicer when you have the start of something and you have something to hold on to. It's just so much easier to work with. And the larger that your project gets, the more accomplishment you feel. It actually is quite amazing that you start with just a whole pile of bands and can come up with such amazing creations. Really, anything that you can crochet, you pretty much can make with bands as well. So I have 2 in this next one. And the more comfortable you get with this, the faster you can go. I'm trying not to go too quickly here. So I have a second one to do here. And then 1. And then finally you can see I have one left here, and I need to do 2 in this. And so now we're back at the beginning here. And so what I'm going to do for this next row is it's going to be just a single in each, so you're going to again need 24. And I'm going to switch to the white. And this time I'm only going to go through one of the loops. So let me just take this clip out. We know that's where we started here. And as I said, there's a back loop and a front loop. So what we're going to do is just go through the back loop. So I'm just taking my hook and going through just that back one. Take my next color, which I'm going to switch back to white here. And again, it's going to go through both of these just because I'm changing colors. Put it back on and make that slip knot. And then again, I'm going to take the clip and move it up so I know that this is the first stitch in my new row. And now I'm just going to work my way around, only doing the back stitch here, the back loop. And it's going to be just one for each. Just going to do that regular single crochet pattern. This is just going to help the basket stand up, have a more definite bottom. So you can see by just putting it through this back loop, it's going to give it a different look here. You can see how it looks like already that it's sort of standing up, and that's what we want to happen. And also when we start to do the puff stitch, that helps it to stand up as well. So this is my first tutorial that I'm doing that's a little bit bigger of a project that doesn't require the loom. So hopefully I'm doing a good job at explaining everything. I've been sort of fiddling around with this crocheting of bands for a while now, but I've never actually done a tutorial on it yet. There's some really amazing things out there right now. So we're getting there. Whoops, I want the back here. And of course for this bottom, if you wanted to keep it all one color, you can certainly do that. I'm really only doing this for the purpose of it being clearer. Alright, so I have 2 more here. And then here's the last one. And then we're back to the start. So I don't know if you can tell here, but you can see how it sort of already wants to sit up, as I said. And so what I'm going to do is take my hook, and I'm actually going to go through this first one that we did where the clip is, but this time I want to make sure I go through both, because that's what we're going to follow for the next section here. So I can take this clip out, and then I'm going to take an orange band and I'm going to pull it through these two. I'm also going to pull it through the other one since I'm changing colors, and I'm going to get that back on my hook. Now for this puff stitch, at least I'm calling it a puff stitch, it's similar to the puff stitch in crochet, but it's not going to have as many bands. I'm only going to do 3 bands in each little section. So this is going to count as my first band. So now I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to go back through the same stitch here that the first one is in. And then it's just going to pull through and go back on my hook. So now I have 4 loops on my hook. And now once again I'm going to go back through the same one. It's going to be kind of tight. Pull that through again. So now you're going to have 6 of these loops on your hook. You're going to take an additional band of that color and you're going to pull it through. If you pull down on this, it's a lot easier to work its way through so it doesn't get hung up on the other bands. You're going to put it back on your hook and you're going to make a slip knot out of that. That's what's going to make up each one of our little sections. So now you're going to go through the next stitch here like usual. You're going through front and back, and you're going to repeat that. So you're going to do it one time, get it back on your hook, go back through a second time, put it back on your hook. So you're going to have the 4 loops and then plus your additional first loop here that stays on, and then you're going to go back through a third time, pull that through and back on. So now you're going to have a total of 7 loops. These 6 are in this stitch and the first one is from the last section. So you're going to take an additional band and you're going to go through just the first 6. So you're leaving this one on your hook. I would suggest using your finger and pulling it back out of the way. So I'm pulling through these 6, getting this back on my hook. I'm going to make a slip knot just on the end too. So now I have 1 band from each of these sections, and now is where I'm going to pull one through the other to connect them. So I'm going over to the next stitch, going through both sides from the back. I'm going to pull through 1 band, back through the same one, pull through a second band, back through a third time. So now's where you should have 7 bands on your hook. Remember, we're ignoring the one at the base here. We're taking an additional band. It's going to slide through these 6, go back on, make a slip knot out of that, and then these 2 go together. So I think the hardest part is sliding your hook through the bands because they do tend to want to get hung up a little bit when you have so many on your hook. But other than that, I don't really think it's too difficult. So I'm getting on the first one and back through for a second. I'm going to move a little bit faster or we'll be here until tomorrow. And then a third. So I have my first 6 and then the 1, holding that one back. And then I'm going to pull this new band through the other 6, back on, make a slip knot out of that, and then connect them. So you can see here the pattern starting to form, and sometimes you may have to stretch these out. They do want to get a little bit tight against one another. So I'm just going to continue around all the way doing this. So that's my second, and then a third. Getting this to go through the 6, making that slip knot, and then connecting them. So I'll do a few more, and then I think I'm going to fast forward just for the sake of time. Getting that additional band to pull through the first 6, slip knot, and connect. Again, pulling it through just the first 6, doing that slip knot, and then connect. So I am just going to continue doing the same pattern in every stitch, and when I get near the end here, I will show you what to do next. Now I've almost completed my first layer, and I have one more to do here. You can see I have one more white stitch I have to go through, and you can see the basket does get a little bit out of shape. You do have to sort of separate these to try and give yourself room, but once you get more layers on, it'll work itself out. So again, I'm just doing the same thing, getting 3 bands through the same stitch here. And then finishing it off here. So I'm back at the start, and we will, if you feel like you need to, we can tack this together at the end. But for right now, we're just going to continue on doing the next layer. So at the top of each of these little puffs here, you can see this is where our stitches that we're going to be going through. It shouldn't be that hard to find. It's just the very top here. And now I'm just going to switch to the white here, and I'm just going to continue doing that same pattern. I'm going to go through one time, and I do want to go through the orange one that's on my hook just because we're switching colors, so just don't forget to do that first if you're using a different color. And then I'm going back through the same one. It is a little bit tighter to get through that one. So that's the second one, and then I'm going to go back through again and bring through a third, and then I'm taking an additional white, pulling it through all of these 6 here, and then making that first slip knot, and then that will remain on my hook. Move over to the next one. So it's really just the same thing all over again with the 3 bands. One more time here. Whoops, that's orange. Going through the 6, slip knot, and then through the previous. So once again, I'm just going to fast forward here so you can pause the video, and you'll just work your way all the way around, and then when I get to the end I'll show you what to do again. I'm now almost done with this second row here, and you can see I have one more to do. If you look at the top, it looks like you might have 2 stitches to do, but you really only just have one. You can see it should line up that there's only one left here, because this one here is just the first slip knot that we made to hide that orange color, or slip stitch I should say. And so I'm just going through the last one here. And by now everybody should be experts at doing this. Make that slip knot on top and then connect. And so now I'm just going to go to the next one over here, and it's a little bit tight. This is the top of the first one, and I'm going to change to my blue color here, and this is a little bit tighter to go through, just this very first one. And I am going to pull it through the white one that's on my hook just to close that off, make the slip stitch. But I'm putting this back on, but I'm not sliding one through the other just yet, because I have to go back through 2 more times in that same one. It's definitely a little bit tighter than the rest. And then I'm going to get this last one to go through all of the 6, since I didn't have a previous band on my hook. Make that slip knot, and then you're just going to continue around, same as usual here. And now for this next one, it goes through the 6, slip knot, and through the previous. So again, I'm just going to continue around here, and when I get to the end, I will show you what to do next. I am now almost done with my last row here. I just have one more to do here. So I'm just going in through this last stitch, doing my 3 bands through, taking another band, and just finishing this up here. And then finally I want to take an additional blue band, and I need to tie this off here. So I'm just going to go through the first stitch here again, pull this through, and then also through the one that's on my hook, get the other end and make a slip knot. So I want to make sure this is nice and tight, it's not going to come apart. And then you're just going to have to hide this loop. So I'll just go through some of the bands here on the inside and get a hold of the loop, and I'll just pull it through. So if you feel like your top is too tight or your basket's going in more around the top, you can just take a minute and stretch these out. If you feel like anything needs to be reshaped at all, you can do that. Now I would also like to point out here in the back where you start and stop here, where the new rows start, if you feel like you have too much of a gap in there, you can tack these together. So let me just flip this inside out. And then starting here at the top, if you feel like your blue needs to be any more together, you can just go through just some of the bands on the right and the left. Take another band, pull it through, and make that slip knot. And then here you can see where the colors join. Go through the white, and you may want to, I kind of hid this now because I put this other one, but you can see where this stitch is. Even though we made a slip stitch there, you can see it a little bit. You can always just grab that and then pick up one or two over on the left. You would just take an additional white band and slide it through all of these and make another slip knot, nice and tight. And then finally the same thing at the bottom with the orange. You just want to pick up one or two from the right. And then again, I'm going to grab this orange band that's sort of up in the white and then pick up one or two from the left. Take another orange and just make another slip knot. And then you would want to hide these as well. So you can just pull them through. You really won't notice because they're inside the basket. Doing the same for all of them. And if you feel like your basket looks pretty nice without these, you don't have to add that. So turn it back over, and then it just looks a little bit tighter there. You don't notice that that's where we began and ended. So the last thing that we have to do is make the handle for the basket if you want to add a handle. And let me just show you something on the one that I already made here. On the one side, you can see on the handle how you can see the next color a little bit with this inside stitch. You can see the different colors on each other. And then on the reverse side, you're not going to see that. It's going to be solid. So it's just a matter of what you want facing the front and the back of the basket. So I actually think that either way it looks kind of cool. So it's just a matter of your preference. So if you want just the plain side to be facing forward, you're going to start on the right. If you want the different colors on each other facing the front of the basket, you'll start on your left. So I am going to start on the left. This time I'll have my colors facing the front of the basket. So I'm starting here on the middle and the back, and I'm going to count 6 stitches over to the left. So again, if you don't want the colors to be seen on the front of the handle, you would go the opposite direction. You would start on the right. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then that is where I'm going to stick my hook under. Make sure it's going under the top 2 here. And I'm just going to be doing that same puff stitch. So I'm taking my first one and pulling it through and getting it back on. And then I'm going to repeat that 2 more times. And then once you have 6 bands on your hook, let me just turn this here, you're going to take an additional band of that color and you're just going to pull it through, get it back on your hook, and make a slip knot. And now to do the next part, you're going to have to go inside of this slip knot that we just made, this loop that's on the top. So what I would suggest is take your finger and hold the one that's on your hook, the band part that's on your hook, and stretch this out, and that's going to allow you to get your hook to go underneath there. And then you're going to take your next color, so I have white, just going to pull 3 of these bands through here, So that's my first one. Second, it's a little bit tight, and my third. And so now you can see what I mean, how the color is going to show on this side. And now I'm taking an additional white band, and I'm just going to slide that through all of them, get it back on, and make that slip knot. So that's really all we're going to keep doing here. So now I'm going to take my orange, and again I'm going to put my finger on this, stretch it out. I have to get my hook to go underneath these two bands. Pull one through, go under again for a second. Whoops, I lost it. And then one more time. And then I'm taking another orange, and it's going to go through all on my hook and make a slip knot. So you can see the pattern here. So I'm just going to keep repeating that until I have it long enough. You can really do any size that you'd like. As far as what I'm doing, there's going to be 13 sections in total. And so I started with blue, and then my last one is going to end with blue because I want it to blend with the top of the basket. So I will just fast forward here, and you can go ahead and finish your handle. I've now completed my 13 sections, and so I have just this one band left on my hook. So now all I need to do is tack this to the right side here, and just to make sure it's even, I'm going to count 12 spaces from the left here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I have that right here. And then I'm going to take my hook and go through. So I have the 3 on my hook right now, and I'm just going to take another band and pull it through. And then I'm just going to make a slip knot. Pull that nice and tight. And then again, I just have to hide that on the inside. So we'll just go through, I don't know if you can see good here, go through a couple of these. And I'll just pull it through. And then my basket is complete. And you might have to mess with this a little bit. If you feel like this is too loose, you can always take another band, because it is a little bit of a loose connection. You can take another band here and just from the inside go up through the inside section and then the bottom here and pull another band through just to make it a little bit sturdier. And then you would just hide that inside there as well. So I hope that everyone loves their new puff baskets. You can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook, post pictures of your creations to my Facebook page, and please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can stay up to date on my latest tutorials. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram, so please feel free to subscribe to those as well. Thanks for watching!